Means that do it. Burger
Technical difficulties.
News at bedtime.
This is the news at bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee. Stories this bedtime. The inquest into the death of Cock Robin. The coroner's report highlights fundamental errors in the investigation.
My client, the Sparrow, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He has now retracted his confession and says that the bow and arrow were planted on him by the police, who had only arrested him because he was brown, with a grey-speckled breast.
More of that later.
Also coming up, we ask, will Prince Charming ever marry Cinderella?
But first, news coming in of a disturbing medical mystery involving an old woman who swallowed a fly. We're going over now to Mary, our contrary correspondent, who is in the hospital.
No, I'm not.
So, where are you, Mary?
I'm outside the hospital, Jim, and with me is Dr. Foster, who is treating the old woman. Can you tell us, Doctor, why she swallowed the fly?
I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
And will she die?
Perhaps, but we are doing everything we can to remove the fly. We've given her a spider to be taken orally, which should do the job.
Are there any side effects?
The spider may wriggle and jiggle and tickle inside her.
And if the spider fails to catch the fly?
In that unlikely event, then we will administer a routine bird, like the one I have here, which we will insert into her throat in order to catch the spider and thus remove the fly.
A bird? How absurd.
Not at all. This is a standard procedure in cases of insect ingestion. There's nothing to worry about.
Thank you, Doctor. Back to you in the studio, Jim.
Mary, our contrary correspondent, will be keeping us updated on that story as it happens.
No, I won't.
She really is so contrary.
And the time just coming up to 102, 7, Hallibow, Crackybow, 10 and 11. Now, we all remember the outpouring of grief at the death of one of Nostriland's favourite redbreasts. It was said that all the buds of the air fell a-sighing and a-sobbing when they heard the bell toll for poor Cock Robin.
Today's coroner's report into Cock Robin's killing has highlighted serious errors in the original police investigation. With me now is Gregory Griggs, the lawyer representing the accused Sparrow, who was jailed for life for murder at the Bird Assizes. Gregory Griggs, you have, I believe, 47 different wigs.
That's because I'm a barrister. But can we stick to the shocking miscarriage of justice that has been perpetrated on my client, the Sparrow?
These wigs, where exactly do you wear them?
Well, I wear them up and I wear them down to please the people of the town, but really this is all irrelevant.
Do you wear them east and wear them west?
Look, I came here to...
And you can't tell which you love best?
I refuse to answer any more questions relating to my wigs.
Fair enough.
I'm here to launch a campaign to free my client, the Birdcage 1, who has been wrongly incarcerated for a crime he did not commit.
So you say, but there was a witness.
It was a fly.
A fly may be, but he saw Cock Robin die with his little eye.
If we rely for justice on the evidence of an arthropod that that is notorious for having poor vision, then we are clearly living in a nursery world that is as mad as a hatter.
Come off it. We all know that a fly's eye has 4,000 lenses. That's got to be good, hasn't it?
No. Flies can barely see more than 24 inches, and ballistics suggest that the fly was more than 3 feet away from Cock Robin at the time of death.
And what does the fly say to that?
Well, that's the problem. When I tried to trace him, the fly conveniently disappeared, vanished. And until I track down the fly and question him about this evidence, the sparrow is going to remain in jail.
So you don't know where the fly has gone to?
No, it's a complete mystery.
Thank you, Gregory Griggs. And all his wigs.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Fascinating story, John. The fly's buzzed off and the sparrow's doing bud.
Don't get any better, do they?
Perhaps they should send in a SWAT team. Oh, yeah.
Now, back to that heartbreaking medical story about the old lady who swallowed a fly. That's a coincidence. Mary, our contrary correspondent, is outside the operating theatre.
No, I'm not, John. I'm inside the operating theatre and it's looking messy. Listeners may find the following distressing, so if you are of a sensitive nature, then look away from your radios. Now, Dr. Foster, has the bird procedure worked?
There have, unfortunately, been some complications, possibly due to the advanced age of the patient. It is now necessary for us to implant this emergency cat.
A cat? Imagine that.
The catoscopy is a pioneering procedure, but our success rates are very, very good.
Quick, we're losing the old woman.
Right, get me a dog.
As soon as I have any news, John, I'll bring you an update on the progress of the dog introduced into the old woman to catch the cat, to catch the bird, to catch the spider which wriggled and jiggled and tickled inside her to catch the fly.
And we still don't know why she swallowed the fly.
No, John.
Will she die?
Perhaps.
Thanks, Mary. Jim.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, John. Now, here's Robinson Crusoe with news of this week's Desert Island Discs.
My castaway this week is one of the legendary female impersonators of our time. He is, of course, the Wolf. Mr. Wolf, you're famous for dressing up as a woman. When did you realise that you were not like other wolves?
Quite early, Robinson, I realised I was less interested in huffing and puffing and blowing down houses than putting on frocks and high heels and blowing sailors. Kisses, that is. Am I allowed to say that? Slap on Paul for Wolfie.
What was your favourite role?
Oh, well, I think it has to be Red Riding Hood's granny. The bonnet, the dressing gown, the shawl, the all-over waxing. Ouch. All too divine. And though I say it myself, I wowed them in the forest.
Though you did have your critics.
There was one particularly beastly woodsman who tried to chop me up with an axe. But you can't let them get to you, Robinson. It's extraordinary how prejudiced people are against the lupine transvestite community. We're not harming anyone.
Apart from the people you eat.
Now, you're just being naughty, Robbie.
And your next record?
Well, it's lovely Judy Garland.
Again?
Singing Over the Rainbow.
Again?
Somewhere over the rainbow. Oh, Judy.
So join me, Robinson Crusoe, for Desert Island Discs tomorrow on Radio 40 Winks at 11:30.
Desert Island Discs there. Have you been on yet, Jim? Because I have. That's a no, then.
No. This week has seen, yet again, no announcement of the long-anticipated royal engagement between Prince Charming and Cinderella. I'm joined now by our royal correspondent, Pussycat. Now, Pussycat, where have you been?
Well, Jim, I've been up to London to look at the Queen.
It's now 3 years since the ball where Charming and Cinderella first met. Are we to assume the fairy tale wedding is never going to happen?
I think what you have to remember, Jim, is that Cinders is a very modern young woman. She has a job working in the scullery for her stepmother, and he is very busy with his being charming commitments. So, like many busy young couples, they just haven't found the time.
And presumably there is a lot of pressure on the prince.
Yes, that's right. He doesn't want to rush into anything like his father did and end up having to divorce the beautiful princess and marry an ugly sister.
Can I bring in society hostess Dame Trot? You are not so sure about their suitability.
She's a lovely girl, don't get me wrong, but they come from very different backgrounds. Her fairy godmother was essentially an air hostess, flying around granting wishes. I mean, cabin crew, doors to manual.
Oh, this is just snobbery.
Let me finish, Mr. Tweedledee. What I'm saying is that the prince comes from a long line of charmings, whereas Cinderella, some of her friends are mice.
So who would you like to see the prince marry?
A nice princess from a nice royal family. Someone like the princess with the pea. Now, there's a lovely girl who can feel a pea through 20 mattresses. She's got real nobility, whereas all Cinders has got is a pumpkin and a mop.
Thank you, Dame Trot.
Just what we need. Another pea-brained royal.
Oh, there goes your knighthood, John. Disappearing very fast in a golden carriage.
There are other forms of recognition, Jim, like appearing on Desert Island Discs. Quite an honour. Now, thought for the day with Peter Rabbi.
Hello, John. Hello, Jim. 1 or 2 listeners have written in to say my thoughts for the day are rather depressing, and always about furry bunnies dying in unpleasant ways. So today I'm going to tell you a different story. A story about a hedgehog. Many years ago, my old mother, Mrs. Rabbi, had a friend who did all the ironing for all the animals around Mr. McGregor's farm. The birds, the cats, the rabbits. Mrs. Tiggywinkle ironed for all of them. Then one day, do you know what happened? Mrs. Tiggywinkle was on her way back to her little home with her neat little pile of ironing when she was run over by a big 4x4 which squashed her flat, just like her ironing. And I thought, isn't that life all over? Well, Mrs. Tiggywinkle's life was certainly all over.
Uplifting stuff there, as ever, from Peter Rabbi. News just coming in from the Coast Guard of an accident involving a young fisher named Fisher. I have the Coast Guard on the phone. Captain, what can you tell me?
The young fisher named Fisher was fishing for fish in a fisher.
That's a crack in the rock.
As I said, he was fishing for fish in a fisher when the fish with a grin pulled the fisherman in, and now we're fishing the fisher for Fisher.
So, let me get this straight. The fisher is being fished out of the fisher.
That's right, John.
But what of Fisher's fisher fishing for fish?
I think that's over for now, John.
I think young Fisher the fisher is lucky that you can be fished to fish him out of that fisher.
For sure.
Thank you, Captain.
What you might call a fishy tale.
That really is terrible, Jim. Ow! Give me that rattle!
Make me!
Yes,
Give that to me!
I had it first!
Give me that! Take your hands off of that rattle! You'll get it on the turnip again!
I'm Fee-Fi Glover, and on this week's Fee-Fi Phone-In, we're looking at the really big issues, the issues affecting giants. I've got Thunderdale calling on line 1.
Hello, Fee. Love the programme.
What's your point, Thunderdale?
Kids today, they've got no respect for giants. I had one break into my castle and steal my magic harp. Bloody liberty.
So what do you propose be done about it?
What I do as soon as I smelt his blood is to grind his bones to make me bread.
That's your opinion, Thunderdale. I've got the big friendly giant on line 3. What's your view, BFG?
Well, I'm sorry, Fee, but Thunderdale's knee-jerk reaction is just the sort of thing that's going to give giants a bad name. For heaven's sake, we're not ogres.
Well, some of you are. I've got Grumbleshanks on line 6.
It's trousers. That's the main problem. No one stocks trousers for the lofty lad.
Exactly how tall are you?
About 37 feet. Not that big.
So, more giant controversy with me, Fee-Fi Glover, on the Fee-Fi Phone-In on Wednesday at 11:30.
Our apologies to listeners who may have experienced some interference with the broadcast there due to some technical difficulties with the rattle.
Inserted up a certain person's posterior. Use that as an anecdote on Desert Island Discs.
Over now to Mary, our contrary correspondent, who is following the desperate attempts to save the old woman who swallowed a fly. Mary, I gather there is some good news?
No, Jim, the news here is not good at all. Dr. Foster, is there any hope left for the old woman?
We have done everything we can for her. Sadly, the dog operation did not work. It was necessary to employ a goat to try and remove the dog lodged inside her throat.
What's happening now?
The goat was a high-risk strategy which required a cow as an antidote.
Are you sure you know what you're doing, Doctor? Surely this is way beyond the bounds of conventional medicine.
It is pioneering surgery, and obviously, to the layman, it looks a bit strange. But if this works, it could open a whole new field of groundbreaking operations involving farm animals. Excuse me. Swab. Scalpel. Clamp. Horse.
So the old woman has swallowed a horse. Is she dead?
Of course.
Just time to look at tomorrow's papers. The Nursery Times leads with state visits in Nurseryland. Yankee Doodle comes to town and some nice pictures there of President Doodle riding on a pony. The Daily Fairygraph goes for Wolf claims 3 little pigs gave him swine flu. The Daily Mirror on the Wall reports Bo Peep issues tearful appeal for lost sheep. And the Twinkle Twinkle Daily Star has, unsurprisingly, more naked pictures of Lady Godiva.
News just in. Little Bo Peep is now being questioned by the authorities in connection with the disappearance of her sheep. DNA tests revealed traces of mint sauce on her clothing. This is me, Jim Tweedledee. Ow!
And me, John Tweedledum. Ow! Wishing everyone good night and live happily ever after, except Jim.
Give me that rattle back.
Give it back.
You're totally incapable of handling a rattle properly. I hate you as well.
Leave me alone.
You've made my life a living hell.
News at bedtime.
This is the News at Bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee.
Hello, stories this bedtime. The celebrity wedding of the year. I'll be talking to the owl and the pussycat.
And coming up, the Jumbly problem. We look at the controversial issue of the Jumbly asylum seekers who arrived in a sieve.
They come over here in their leaky sieves and then expect us to foot the bill. I mean, I've got nothing against them. Some of my best friends are Jumblies.
More on the Jumblies later. But first, we're going over to Mary, our contrary correspondent, who's got news of an egg on a wall.
No, I haven't, Jim. The egg was on the wall, but now he's not anymore.
So what's the situation there, Mary?
It's chaos, Jim, but what we're hearing is that the egg, a Mr. Dumpty, was sitting on the wall when he somehow fell off.
Are you saying it was suicide?
Yes, I'm not. Frankly, it's too early to speculate, Jim, but the report suggests that Mr. Dumpty had been feeling depressed recently, possibly because he'd been diagnosed as containing salmonella. As I say, it's too early to speculate, but it was almost definitely a suicide attempt. Unless it was murder. Or an accident.
And what's happening now?
Well, Jim, it's not a pretty sight. There are bits of shell all over the pavement, and despite their best efforts, the emergency services have failed to put Mr. Dumpty together again. I'm speaking now to one of the King's horses and King's men. You didn't arrive very quickly, did you? So you say. Can I bring in one of the King's men now? Sergeant, if your response time had been faster, could Mr. Dumpty have been saved?
Well, I think that question is very offensive to the very hard-working and professional horses and men in a service which, frankly, has been the victim of a series of savage cutbacks. If we were properly resourced, then we could possibly have prevented this egg tragedy.
So you're saying it's all your fault?
No, what I'm saying...
Sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. That's all we've got time for. This is me, Mary, at the wall for the News at Bedtime. Back to the studio.
Yes, Mary there with literally breaking news.
Oh, very amusing, Jim.
And we will have more on that extraordinary story later.
Just stop it and get on with the programme.
So you don't like my yolks? Oh, you just hit me with a rattle.
Now, that's funny. And now over to Dilly with the shipping forecast. Ow!
Here's the shipping forecast at 2300 hours. Viking, Cromarty, Dogger, Bight, Humber, Fastnet, Rockall. You will see 3 ships come sailing by, come sailing by, come sailing by. You'll see 3 ships come sailing by on New Year's Day in the morning. And that's the shipping forecast.
That's typical. You wait ages for a ship on New Year's Day in the morning, and then 3 come along at once.
Very funny, Jim. Now, celebrity weddings are making the headlines again, and they're getting more and more ridiculous. We've had Aladdin and the Emperor's Daughter. We've had Beauty and the Beast. And now, to top it all, we've had the Owl and the Pussycat, who joined me in the studio.
All right.
Hello.
I mean, let's be honest, it's getting a bit silly, isn't it? Traditionalists are saying that as an owl marrying a pussycat, you're taking the institution of marriage and making a nonsense of it. Ow.
Our wedding was a very special day which we will remember forever.
So you should, given that you went all the way to the land where the bong trees grow and hired a turkey to do the service. It's ludicrous, isn't it, pussycat?
It was a beautiful, moving and spiritual service.
A spiritual service involving a pig?
That pig performed the best man duties very capably. He didn't lose the ring.
Well, he couldn't, could he? Because it was stuck through the end of his piggy wig nose. I don't want to ruffle any feathers here, but admit it, this was just a publicity stunt. You even sold the pictures to Hello Boys and Girls magazine.
I think you're being very negative about what was a very magical event.
Yeah, what's your problem, fat boy?
Well,
what I think John's trying to say is that a wedding reception that involves dining on mince and slices of quince could easily be misinterpreted as tacky C-list celebrity excess.
It was well classy. We had a pea green boat and everything.
All I know is that we love each other and we'll be together forever.
And a day.
Very moving. In fact, I can feel my stomach moving. So let's bring in our other celebrity couple who got married in a blaze of publicity last year, the Dish and the Spoon. It didn't turn out so well for you, did it, Spoon?
Well, there's too much pressure on us right from the start. We were breaking all sorts of taboos, you know. Whether you're a crockery or cutlery shouldn't be an issue nowadays, but, you know, the media just won't leave it alone.
Dish, as I understand it, you've now split up.
Me and the Spoon still stay good friends for the sake of the teaspoons.
And Spoon, you're now living with a toaster, aren't you?
You keep popping up in the papers.
I made it clear that I'm not prepared to discuss my private life.
Let's bring the Dish back in. Do you have any advice for the owl and the pussycat?
The owl is very attractive. I mean...
Are you looking at my bed?
Look, pussycat, you don't own me.
Calm down, everyone. We don't want to fight.
Back off, love.
What am I talking about? Of course we do. Carry on, Spoon.
All I've got to say to the pussycat is, I hope you signed a prenup, love.
You keep out of it, you stainless steel bastard.
Listen, Owl, I want half the pea green boat and all the honey and money wrapped up in the £5 note.
In your dreams, Moggy.
Owls, you're all the same.
You try to say that.
So, time for the headlines with Brian, Pinky and Perkins.
Here are the headlines with me, Brian, Pinky and Perkins. The marriage of the owl and the pussycat is officially over, and in an exclusive interview for this programme, the pussycat said, "Owls, they're all the same." The announcement of the official end of their marriage was made on this programme by me, Brian, Pinky and Perkins, just now. And those are the headlines.
Thank you, Brian. And with the time coming up to Once Upon a Time, it's over to Mary, our contrary correspondent, with the latest on the Humpty Dumpty story.
It's not a story, Jim. It's a scandal, and one they are already calling Dumptygate, because the extraordinary development here is that the wall in question has a terrible history of similar disasters. Only last week, 10 green bottles accidentally fell to their doom.
10 green bottles?
Yes, 10 green bottles were standing on the wall, then one green bottle accidentally fell, leaving 9 green bottles.
9 green bottles?
9 green bottles standing on the wall, then another green bottle accidentally fell, leaving 8 green bottles.
I think we'll come back to you, Mary, in just a wee minute. Meanwhile, it's time for Thought for the Day with Peter Rabbi.
Well, talking of walls reminds me that when I was a little bunny, I can remember sitting in a walled garden, eating carrots, and thinking to myself how delicious these carrots were, when all of a sudden an angry Farmer McGregor appeared with a large shotgun and tried to blow my head off. I had to run away very fast and leave my little blue jacket behind. Then, funnily enough, the shot ricocheted off the wall and hit Squirrel Nutkin square in the face, splattering his brains all over the vegetable patch. So, walls can be dangerous things. And you know, I am still in mourning for that little blue jacket.
Peter Rabbi giving us all something to think about there.
And we're getting reports coming in of a major traffic incident in the Banbury area. A cock horse being ridden to Banbury Cross is causing all sorts of problems for travellers. There are tailbacks building up behind a lady on a white horse. Listeners are texting in to say that she has rings on her fingers and bells on her toes. Police are warning that this will lead to music wherever she goes and are therefore asking the public to stay at home unless their journey is absolutely necessary.
And now back to Mary at the wall with the latest on the Dumpty Green Bottlegate fiasco.
And then one green bottle accidentally fell, leaving no green bottles standing on the wall.
No green bottles standing on the wall.
No green bottles standing on the wall.
So what are the implications of all this, Mary?
Members of the egg community are now asking why the wall wasn't demolished following the earlier bottle incident, and they're saying, and I quote, "This wall was an accident waiting to happen." Some leading eggs are even calling for a total ban on all walls over a height of 3 inches, but as you can probably hear, Jim, pro-wall groups are calling this an assault on their basic right to construct brick-based partitions. I'm joined now by a spokesman for pro-wall pressure groups Save the Wall. So, Bob, the builder, what do you want?
Walls.
When do you want them?
Ooh, now you're asking. As soon as we finish our current job, probably Friday, might be next week. Excuse us, love.
So, what do we want?
Walls!
When do we want them?
Walls! Now you're asking!
With the situation getting out of control, it's back to you in the studio, Jim.
Thanks, Mary, for trying to unscramble a potentially explosive story.
Oh! You asked for it. Now, looking forward, tomorrow evening on Radio 40 Winks sees the start of a new panel game. Name that dwarf.
The rules are very simple. 2 teams battle it out to win the Queen's firstborn child. On my right, the lovely miller's daughter who became Queen by spinning flax into gold.
Hello.
Pitting her wits against the malevolent and cruel dwarf.
Hello.
So let's play Name That Dwarf.
Brian.
Nope.
Oh.
Colin.
Nope.
Oh, Balthazar. Casper. Longshanks.
Not even close.
William Trimbletoe. Oh, Wee Willie Winky. Ant. Deck.
Now, that's just silly.
So tune in tomorrow at 6:30 for more name-guessing fun on Name That Dwarf.
More award-winning quality broadcasting there.
And with the time coming up to a long time ago, we turn to the continuing controversy surrounding the Jumbly asylum seekers who arrived on these shores in their sieve. With me in the studio is the head of the pressure group Nursery Land for Nursery Landers, Mr. Peter Piper, and Jumbly community spokesman Mr. Tim Ballow. Peter Piper, what exactly is your objection?
The Jumblies came over here from the lands where the Jumblies live, and if we allow them to stay, then it's going to be the thin end of the wedge. We are going to be swamped by sieve-born Jumblies taking all our jobs.
Isn't that right, Mr. Ballow? Peter Piper used to be employed as a pickled pepper picker, but has since lost his job due to cheap Jumbly labour coming in and offering to pick the peck of pickled peppers for a paltry pittance.
We are doing essential jobs that the native workforce are unwilling to do, and thus providing essential services and stimulating the economy.
So what you are saying is you're not preventing Peter Piper picking pecks of pickled peppers, but positively promoting peck of pickled pepper picking productivity. Peter Piper.
It's not just about cheap labour, there's also the cultural problems.
Oh, here we go.
No, let him finish. You've had your say.
The Jumblies have their own customs, and they don't make any attempt to integrate with the local community.
Nonsense.
They come over here with their rice and cranberry tarts and hives of silvery bees. Some of them have jackdaws and monkeys with lollipop paws. That's not what we do over here.
Yes, you see, now we're getting to the heart of Mr. Piper's real objection, which is not economic or socio-cultural, but simply racism.
That is an outrageous allegation, and it's not...
It comes down to colour. You don't like the fact that our heads are green and our hands are blue.
Are they? I hadn't noticed.
Peter Piper, Tim Ballow, we're going to have to leave it there. Clearly, the Jumbly issue is here to stay, much like the Jumblies. John.
Thanks, Jim. Any worries that a Jumbly might come over here and take your job?
No, I don't think there's any danger of that. News at bedtime doesn't pay enough.
And, of course, the Jumbly's noses are green rather than red, like yours.
Ow! The time is just coming up to time for a time check. The time is one more story, and you've got to go to sleep. John.
That rattle really hurt. And joining me in the studio to discuss what's being called the Green Bottle Dumpty Eggwall Gate catastrophe is government spokesman Lord Pinocchio. Lord Pinocchio, Green Bottle Dumpty Eggwall Gate has raised major health and safety issues for your administration. Are you taking it seriously?
Very seriously.
Is your nose all right?
That's a private matter, John. What we in the government are proposing is a full public inquiry to look at all the issues and deliver a comprehensive report.
But some people are saying that this is just going to be a whitewash, which won't look at any of the issues at all.
Well, that's the sort of anti-government cynicism that we've come to expect from the Nurseryland media.
Be careful with that nose, you could have someone's eye out. So who exactly have you appointed to run the inquiry?
An independent, objective and highly regarded panel of mice.
There were 3 of them, and I can't help noticing that they're blind.
I'm afraid I can't comment on that.
Lord Pinocchio, is it fair to say that in this matter you're just a puppet?
No, I'm a real politician.
Thank you, Lord Pinocchio.
Thank you, John.
Just time to look at tomorrow's papers. The Nursery Times leads with Ladybird in Arson Probe. The Daily Ferrygraph has DNA breakthrough, little girls made of sugar and spice. The Daily Mirror on the wall goes for I defied hunting ban, says Baby Bunting Dad. And the Twinkle Twinkle Daily Star has free Lady Godiva calendar featuring naked pictures of the Coventry glamour model in various poses on her horse. No surprises there. So this is me, Jim Tweedledee, saying good night.
And me, John Tweedledum, saying, and me, John Tweedledum. Join us next time for another edition of News at Bedtime, and in the meantime, live happily ever after. Good night.
Ow!
News at Bedtime.
This is the News at Bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee. Tonight on News at Bedtime, we take an in-depth look at our fractured society, what they are calling knackered nurseryland. The news that an old woman is to give birth at the age of 69 has prompted widespread national debate.
It's not right, is it? She's already got loads of kids. And besides, she lives in a shoe.
Our social affairs editor, Polly Put the Kettle On, presents a special investigation. But first, we have a report from our contrary correspondent, Mary, who's going over the hills and far away.
No, I'm not, Jim. I'm going down to the woods today.
Fair enough. You can always be sure of a big surprise if you go down to the woods today.
You can today, Jim, because the big surprise is there aren't any woods. They've all been cut down to make way for a big bypass.
So what about the teddy bear's picnic?
It's no picnic here, Jim, I can tell you.
What do we want?
Picnics!
When do we want them?
In the woods today!
The controversy over the Banbury Cross bypass has escalated into running battles between the teddy bears and the police. Some of the teddy bears have even chained themselves to the few remaining trees.
What sort of numbers are we talking about?
Thousands, Jim. In fact, I think you could say that every bear that ever there was has gathered here for certain because today was the day the teddy bears should have had their picnic. But obviously that picnic plan was abandoned when the police and bulldozers moved in.
Thanks, Mary. I'm now joined down the line by the officer in charge, Commissioner Plod. Commissioner, surely this is a legitimate protest.
A handful of Trotskyist teddies are undemocratically trying to disrupt the construction of a much-needed bypass. A bypass that will allow traffic to move freely in the Banbury area without hold-ups from cock horses and fine ladies with rings on their fingers and bells on their toes.
Is the practice of kettling these bears somewhat heavy-handed?
Kettling is a standard crowd control procedure designed for the safety of the bears themselves.
But surely experience has shown that if you kettle things, they boil over.
That is a fair point. In the event of the teddy bears getting steamed up, we shall revert to the traditional police methods of hitting them over the head with batons.
Is that an appropriate response?
Well, John, we are just doing our job, knocking the stuffing out of a few anti-capitalist cuddly toys.
But Commissioner Plod, you have a very bad record with bears. After the controversial shooting of alleged porridge thief Goldilocks by your officers, you arrested the 3 bears for her murder.
If you are suggesting that the Toy Town police are institutionally bearist, then that is a very serious allegation. We have worked hard with the bear community to improve relations, and there are even bears in the force now, in panda cars.
So, one last question, Commissioner. Will the police win this battle with the teddies?
Do bears shame themselves with their toilet habits in the woods?
No, they don't anymore because there aren't any woods.
How about I pop round and give you a baton sandwich, fat boy?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Plod. Jim.
Now, a report in today's Daily Telegraph says that accidents at work are on the rise, despite the best efforts of health and safety. With me in the studio is Theophilus Thistledown, who is a successful thistle sifter.
Hello.
Mr. Thistledown, can you tell us exactly what happened?
I was sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles when I thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of my thumb.
Ouch, 3,000 thistles through the thick of your thumb, and you sued your employer for making you thistle sift unsifted thistles in a sieve.
I was awarded £30,000 in compensation.
That's 10,000 for each unsifted thistle thrust through the thick of your thumb, Mr. Thistledown.
Theophilus.
And do you think that your thistle suit will mean an end to unsifted thistle sifting in a sieve thumb thrust incidents?
It's hard to say.
Thank you, Theophilus Thistledown, the successful thistle sifting sewer.
I'm glad I didn't have to interview him.
Well, tomorrow you've got the man who saw Esau sitting on a seesaw. But now it's time for social affairs editor Polly Put the Kettle On with her special report on knackered nurseryland.
It's night time, and the old woman who lives in the shoe is trying to get her children off to bed.
Kylie, Darren, Beyonce, Ashley, the other one. You, shut it or you'll get a whipping.
We want some pizza and nuggets.
You've had some broth without any bread and that's all you're getting.
Old woman, I can see that this is a loving family environment, but there are some who say that you're struggling to cope with 27 children in this shoe. They say that you have so many children that you don't know what to do.
Well, I do know what to do. I'm going to have me another one.
Are you quite sure that's a good idea? Because some might say you really are quite old.
That's the whole point. I'm going to sell my story to the news of the nursery world, aren't I?
And what will you do with the money?
I'm going to move out of this shoe and get myself a nice flip-flop by the seaside. Oi, Rio, get your brother's head out the shoelace hole.
You're clearly under a huge amount of stress, old woman. Is there anything I can do?
Well, Polly, you could put the kettle on.
I was not the only one concerned about the footwear family. The old woman's neighbours fear that the children are out of control.
Well, she's had 27 children by different fathers, and they lack
any sort of role model, not to mention any sort of discipline.
One of the younger ones, I think he's called Willy Winky, recently ran amok through the town in his nightgown, knocking on people's windows and shouting through people's doors.
They gave him an ASBO, but it really hasn't made any difference.
I know one is not allowed to say it nowadays, but sterilisation certainly has its advantages.
That's a bit strong, darling.
Then what about fumigation? The place could certainly do with some odour eaters.
What do you think the future holds for these children brought up in a shoe?
I think it's sad but inevitable. The whole lot of them are going to end up in boot camp.
More from Polly Put the Kettle On Knackered Nursery Land later in the programme. But first, Thought for the Day.
We regret that Peter Rabbi, who normally presents Thought for the Day, is otherwise engaged. So here instead is his cousin, Benjamin Sunny.
Hello, John. Hello, Jim. With today's theme being that of misfortune, I thought I would try and make everyone feel better. The other day, I was with Peter in Mr. McGregor's garden. We were nibbling away on onions and radishes and juicy carrots. They were delicious. Then all of a sudden, we heard a big bang. Or rather, I did. Peter didn't, because his head was blown clean off by Mr. McGregor's shotgun. Poor Peter. I felt sad because Peter was gone from this life, and his head was in the compost heap. But then I thought, hang on, he may be gone, but in a very real sense, Peter is still with us. Which he is, in this pie. Care for a slice, John?
That really is delicious. Jim, you should try some.
My favourite. I'll tell you something. It's the first time Peter's ever cheered us up on a Thought for the Day.
Good old Peter.
And now, news of broadcasting treats in store.
Tomorrow sees the return of My Little Eye TV's reality celebrity show, I'm a Princess, Get Me Out of Here, in which celebrity royals have to rescue the beautiful Rapunzel from her tower. Introduced as usual by children's favourites Ant and Bee.
And today's trial is the same as every other day. Can the king's son get Princess-in-Waiting Rapunzel out of the tower in the middle of the forest without the wicked enchantress placing a curse on him?
Yeah, I'm well up for it. Give it 110% on the day. Hopefully get a result.
And you know what you got to do?
Yeah, and...
Actually, I'm B.
Really? Whatever.
Now, Prince, the tower has no doors and no staircase. How are you going to get her out of there?
The plan is to get Rapunzel to let down her hair, climb up into the tower, win her hand, make a ladder made out of silk, then both climb down, run away, live happily ever after. Maybe get bladdered on a couple of mega mojitos in bougies first.
Let's hope the enchantress doesn't take Rapunzel's place, lure you up the tower and then blind you.
Wicked.
She certainly is.
Find out how the celebrity king's son gets on with the latest challenge in tomorrow's episode of I'm a Princess, Get Me Out of Here. Only on My Little Eye TV1.
Award-winning rubbish there from My Little Eye TV's Facutainment department. Now, today marks the official birthday of His Imperial Highness, the Emperor, and so we go live to our fashion correspondent, Gilly Silly, who is covering the royal birthday walkabout.
Well, John, it's a marvellous scene here outside the palace as we wait for the Emperor. And, of course, we're all dying to know what sort of look he's gone for. Oh, here he comes now, wearing a stunning new outfit. It's a one-piece pink ensemble, closely fitted, figure-hugging, very textured, with a sort of dangly tassel about the midriff. Nice flourish. Very, very this year. Very, very now. Very, very, very. And it is designed, of course, by the exciting new team of Swindler and Hustler, who are the happening tailors of the season. I'm joined by them now, Carl and Giorgio. How cutting edge is this new suit?
For sure, it is radical, and many stupid people will not get it.
Yes, there will be Philistines who say, we cannot see it.
Well, I love it. It's smart casual, casual smart. It's casual casual with a smart twist.
The Emperor's got no clothes on.
Oh dear, there's been a security lapse and somehow a lunatic protester has got near the Emperor. But thankfully the security forces have wrestled him to the ground. And now they've neutralised him with a taser, so he won't be a danger to the public anymore with his extremist views and terror agenda. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Gilly Silly.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for thanking me.
Thanks for thanking me for thanking you.
Thanks for that thanking. Jim.
Thanks, John. Don't I get a thanks?
No.
Well, thanks a lot.
Now, one of the saddest manifestations of our modern obsession with fashion and looks is cosmetic surgery. Joining me in the studio now is the Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid, you were so unhappy with the way the lower half of your body looked that you went to see a cosmetic sorceress and had your tail replaced with 2 legs. And one of the side effects of this drastic procedure was that you had your voice taken away by the sea witch, rendering you mute, which makes you, in radio terms, an absolutely useless guest. The Little Mermaid there with her tragic tale.
Though she doesn't have a tail at all.
It's not funny, Jim. It's one of our sad, depressing stories.
Like your love life. Ow!
Now over to Dilly Dilly with the weather.
Thank you, John. We've got a wind coming in from the east, which is neither good for man nor beast. But by early morning, we can expect dew on the grass, which, of course, means that rain will never come to pass. And if you are a shepherd, you can look forward to quite a lot of delight thanks to that red sky at night. And that's the outlook from me, Dilly Dilly.
And now back to Polly Put the Kettle On for the second part of her special report on knackered nursery land.
It's tea time in old Mother Hubbard's house.
Come on, doggy. Let's go to the cupboard and get you a bone.
As so often in our uncaring society, the doggy is the only companion for old Mother Hubbard. Yet the state makes no provision for the dog's needs. A bone would not seem to be a lot to ask for in return for voluntary round-the-clock support.
Oh, dear.
The cupboard is bare, a metaphor for the shocking state of care for the elderly in Nurseryland. It's a familiar story in Nurseryland. Down the road, old Mother Shuttle lives in a coal scuttle, along with her dog and her cat. What they eat, I can't tell, but it is known very well that not one of the party is fat.
A shocking picture there from Polly Put the Kettle On. Joining me in the studio is the Nurseryland Minister for Social Services, William McTrimbletoe.
Good evening, John.
Mr. McTrimbletoe, you've heard the report and it's pretty distressing. What's to be done?
We are aware that there is a problem with certain aspects of elderly care provision, child support in underprivileged communities and so on, but we're working on this. And you know, John, you can't just wave a magic wand and make it all better.
Why not?
Well,
why not?
It's not that you...
Why not?
Well, if you...
Why can't you wave a magic wand? If you can't wave a magic wand in Nurseryland, where can you?
Suppose you're right.
There's no shortage of magic wands, is there?
No.
Then get waving.
OK, I will.
Good. Thanks for coming on the programme.
Thank you. If you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I have a magic wand to wave.
Now, there was going to be a third shocking part of Polly Put the Kettle On's report on knackered Nurseryland. But now that a magic wand has been waved, everyone's going to live happily ever after. So instead, let's have a look at tomorrow's papers. The Nursery Times leads with Old Woman to live in a luxury Ugg boot. The Daily Telegraph has Wee Willie Winkie to study medicine at Harvard. The Daily Mirror on the wall goes for, yes, it's a bonanza, old Mother Hubbard to buy bigger cupboard. And the Twinkle Twinkle Daily Star has sensational pictures of Lady Godiva fully clothed. Good night.
Good night. Sleep tight, old friend.
You too, old buddy. Night-night.
Nighty-night. Sweet dreams.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
For T-Winks, what better way to see in the new year than with Nurseryland's favourite news broadcasters, John Tweedledum and Jim Tweedledee, as they present their review of the year.
News at Bedtime. Review of the year.
You're listening to the News at Bedtime's review of the year with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Jim Tweedledee.
And what an extraordinary year 2020 has been for News at Bedtime. Jim?
Yes, indeed, John. It's been a cherry year, a merry year, a pear year, a dear year, a plum year, and a dumb year.
Sounds like Jim has been at the festive brandy already. I wonder if he remembers anything about the year.
Well, you'll remember this.
Ow! You hit me with your rattle.
It's what I do.
Oh, me too.
Oh! Here are some of the year's news highlights.
Prince Charming has finally announced his engagement to Cinderella.
Yeah, it was amazing, right? My fairy godmother just waved her wand and I became, like, middle class. Totally brill.
The race between the hare and the tortoise has ended dramatically.
Look, let's be honest,
neither of us won conclusively, and so I've offered my old friend the tortoise a deal where we share the prize and end the old first-past-the-post system.
I agree with her.
Thank you, tortoise.
Top footballer Georgie Porgy has issued a super injunction preventing publication of stories about his private life.
My client, Mr. Porgy, considers this to be a personal matter, and the purpose of the injunction is to stop any girls selling kiss and cry stories to the news of the nursery world.
Is he going to be dropped from advertising pudding and pies?
No comment.
Yes, an amazing year, and John is hoping that it will be crowned with an appearance by a certain overweight broadcaster in the Queen of Hearts' New Year's honours list.
That's not true. I am not expecting anything from Her Majesty, who I would like to point out does a very difficult job as Nurseryland's constitutional figurehead, as well as finding time to bake tarts all on a summer's day.
Oh, come off it, John. You're gagging for a gong.
You're the one asking to be gonged.
Oh!
We'll be announcing those honours live later on, but first it's time to catch up with what is happening on Twitter. That was a tweet. It was from little Robin Redbreast, tweeting his followers the important news that he sat upon a rail. Oh, and apparently Niddle Noddle went his head and Wiggle Waggle went his tail. Fascinating.
What a complete Twitter Robin is.
For Nurseryland, this has above all been a year of austerity, a year of cutbacks, and nowhere more so than in public services. Mary, our quite contrary correspondent, is with us here in the studio.
No, John, I'm down the line.
Mary, contrary as ever. And you're talking to a top civil servant about the impact of cuts on jobs.
No, John, I'm looking at how the cuts are affecting the Nurseryland military. I'm embedded with a division of the Grand Old Duke of York's regiment in an undisclosed location, and we're on manoeuvres. So, Grand Old Duke of York, you had 10,000 men. How many do you have now?
37.
Is that sufficient for up and downhill marching operations?
Well, you need a minimum of 10,000 men when you're up and at least 10,000 men when you're down.
And when you're only halfway up?
Again, 10,000 is the ideal figure for a neither up nor down scenario.
Some would say that in today's Nurseryland we need a more streamlined military, a more flexible modern army.
As a Grand Old Duke, I can tell you that so long as there are hills, we will need the men to march up and down them. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have a job to do. Men, halt! About turn forward, march! Halt! About turn forward, march! Halt! About turn forward, march!
Back to you in the studio, Jim.
It's John, actually. Mary, contrary as ever. But surely the highlight of the news at Bedtime's entire year was my exclusive interview with Prince Charming's father, Prince Not Quite So Charming, who had controversially opposed the planned building of new starter homes.
Thank you. Yes, you don't have to do that, you know.
Phew, it's a pleasure. Just get my breath back. So, thank you, Your Royal Highness, for allowing me to come to this building site. And may I ask, as we agreed, what is your objection to this proposed development?
Well, the three little pigs are trying to put up these totally hideous little houses, which are utterly at odds with the prevailing architectural style of Nurseryland.
I couldn't agree more, Your Regal Majesticness.
I mean, one is built of awful straw, one of ghastly wood, and the worst of all is this frightful red brick monstrosity.
Oh yes, how dreadfully vulgar, Your Noble Lordliness.
I mean, why can't people build something more in keeping with the environment, like a traditional palace made out of marble with gold turrets and a drawbridge and a dragon in the dungeon?
Yes, why can't they, Your Imperial Supremeness?
Yeah, I'm going to write to the big bad wolf and see if he can't do something about it.
Thank you very much for the privilege of being in your presence, Your Kingly Worshipfulness.
You don't overdo it, fat boy.
That's enough of that.
Oi, what are you doing?
Getting on with the programme.
I was just playing it as a mark of respect.
And stop standing to attention. You're demeaning yourself.
Just stretching my legs.
No, you weren't. You were practising getting a knighthood in the New Year's honours. Oh, yeah! Oh, okay, you weren't much. As John has demonstrated, this year has seen the return of class as a determining factor in nurseryland life.
There have been worrying claims that social mobility has stalled and that the establishment is being dominated by people who went to public schools.
So I flew to Neverland. First star to the right.
Typical, everyone else has to fly second star to the right.
To meet one of the most prominent old Etonians in public life, Captain Hook.
Have it, you pan, you pestilent pack.
Captain Hook, if I could just interrupt your sword fight for a minute.
I'll deal with you later, Pan. Talk to my people. We will reschedule for 6 bells.
OK, I'll get lost for a bit.
Gosh, Peter Pan's a bit of a looker. Now, Captain Hook, I wanted to talk to you about the role of meritocracy in Nurseryland society.
Oh, not this old chestnut again. You know, I'm awfully sick of people saying I only got the job as pirate captain because I went to Eton. It's boring and it's unfair.
But surely your privileged education must have been an advantage to your career in the swashbuckling sector.
I have achieved my reputation as a bloodthirsty scavenger of the 7 seas through hard work and determination. Swashing and buckling has nothing to do with a private education. I mean, they didn't teach us keel hauling at Eton, you know. Oh, perhaps they did. Yeah, come to think of it, yes, I may have keel-hauled the odd fag.
But you still deny that you are the beneficiary of the old Lost Boy network?
Absolutely. I concede that going to Eton does give you the confidence to deal with certain social situations, say kidnapping a princess such as Tiger Lily, or inviting Wendy Darling, one of the Kensington Darlings, to join one's scurvy crew.
So, Captain Hook, you got the job because you're a safe pair of hands.
Is that supposed to be a joke?
No, I merely...
Mr. Smee, prepare the flag. Oi, oi, Captain! Our fat friend has decided to take a walk.
Wait. In-depth reporting there. You're listening to News at Bedtime's very popular and indispensable Review of the Year. And with the time just coming up to 1 rum, 2 rum, coke rum, shoe rum, shetrum, shatrum, wineberry, wagtail, taradiddle den, it's time to have a wee drink, just for medicinal purposes, obviously. Oh, I feel better already. Time to have a look at the sporting year with Harry Parry.
This is The Sport with me, Harry Parry. And what a sensational year it's been. It started in January, brings the snow, makes your feet and fingers glow, when athletics history was made.
Yes, here he comes again, the Ragged Rascal running round and round the Rugged Rock in record-breaking time. That's world-class round and round Rugged Rock running by the Ragged Rascal there. And as he finishes the last lap, it's a really remarkable record rock run round and round by a rascal who may be ragged, but who has left the world of Rugged Rock running reeling.
But then controversy hit athletics hard, following a routine test on perhaps the most famous runner of our time, the Gingerbread Man.
On behalf of the Nurseryland Athletics Federation, I regret to have to announce that the Gingerbread Man is in fact a gingerbread woman.
Steve Crumb, the Daily Mirror on the wall. How can you tell?
Well, our suspicions were originally aroused when we noticed that he appeared to have no obvious genitalia, and this was confirmed by tests which showed that he was made not out of slugs and snails and puppy dogs' tails, but predominantly out of sugar, spice and all things nice.
Run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread woman.
Well, that really took the biscuit. But worse was to come in one of the biggest sporting scandals to rockabye baby in the treetop. The cricket fixing affair.
Sport now, and a sad day for the cricket world with the revelation that Jiminy one-day cricket has been caught taking bribes. Top international player Spinocchio had this to say.
It came as a great shock to us all. Sorry, bit of a problem with my nose. I thought that Jiminy was a cricket who always stuck to the straight and narrow and always let his conscience be his guide. But although Jiminy was receiving gifts such as a top hat, tails, an umbrella and spets, which perhaps may seem surprising for a professional cricket, I deny allegations that Jiminy was not a true cricket at all. Sorry, nose again.
Top player Spinocchio there, who also denied he's anybody's puppet. And news just coming in, the International Cricket Confederation has had no alternative but to ban Jiminy from being a cricket for life.
Now that's just not cricket. And that's the sporting year from me, Harry Parry.
Thanks, Harry. There were more worrying developments this year in the field of genetically modified crops. Field, you see.
No.
Back in 30 days hath September, Mary, our contrary correspondent, went to harvest the news. You see what I've done there?
Yes, you've got yourself a whack on the buns.
Oh, yeah. I'm Mary, or am I? Yes, I am. And I'm here in the garden behind the potting shed with two opponents of GM technology, Bill and Ben. Bill and Ben, you are flower pot men. What are your concerns?
Oh,
So what you're saying is that you have come across a weed that can talk. I see. And are you afraid that a plant with linguistic ability is only the first of a series of nightmare developments in what you call the Frankenstein food industry? So you say, can we bring the weed in here now? Little weed, are they right to be worried about scientists playing God with nature and creating agricultural monsters? Gentlemen, weed, can you talk one at a time, please? The listeners won't be able to hear the points that you are making. A last word from you, weed. That's very much the last word, as Bill and Ben have just sprayed her with industrial strength weed killer. Bill and Ben, thank you for talking nonsense to me.
And what could be more appropriate to follow such a challenging piece of journalism than a bit of free advertising for the new series of Nurseryland's favourite TV show, Spinning Top Gear, with Jeremy Fisherson.
Welcome to Series 138 of Spinning Top Gear. Later in the programme, I'll be putting the new Cinderella pumpkin through its paces. It looks like a pumpkin. It feels like a pumpkin, but it handles like a carriage made of pure gold. This baby has literally got 4 horsepower. Crack your whip and you'll be at the ball before you can say ugly, fat, hairy lesbian stepsisters. We'll also be putting a Yonder Star in a reasonably priced car, and Hammy the hamster tests out the fastest vehicle in Nurseryland, Santa's sleigh.
This makes the Bugatti Veyron look like the Noddymobile. Let's take it for a spin. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen. On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. The G-forces are absolutely incredible. This thing is seriously quick. And as I approach top speed, it's very hard to control. And Oops. Sorry, Jeremy. And sorry, Santa. Where am I?
Next time we'll leave the driving to our tame Neanderthal racing driver, Stig of the Dublin.
Honestly, they make Peter Pan look grown up.
You're listening to the News at Bedtime review of the year. And with the time coming up to 11:12, dig and delve, it's not long now till the New Year's honours list is announced. Not that you're interested, John.
I'm just curious, and I think it would be a good idea if they put the clocks forward. In fact, this year, Nurseryland controversially proposed putting the clocks back from once upon a time to deep in the midst of time. Local Nurseryland authorities were particularly worried about having to turn the lights on earlier, as I discovered when I interviewed Councillor Tommy Tackett back in the darling buds of May.
Hello, John.
So what exactly is the issue with street lighting at night?
Well, the council feels that you've no need to light a nightlight on a light night like tonight, for a nightlight's light's a slight light, and tonight's a night that's light.
So if I understand you correctly, when a night's light, like tonight's light, it is really not quite right to light night lights with their slight lights on a light night like tonight.
Exactly, so we just turn them off.
Leaving no slight light from the night lights on a light night like tonight.
Right.
Thank you and good night.
Most illuminating, John. Oh, yeah! I think they've got the right idea, though. Oh! Oh, what a shining example, that council. Oh yeah! A beacon of...
Got the message?
A glaring...
Apparently not. Now, with the time coming up to oranges and lemons, we take a look back at a year of litigation with our consumer champion, Hector Protector.
I'm Hector Protector, and this year I have been investigating the rise of compensation culture.
Have you had an accident at work? Have you gone up a hill to fetch a pail of water, then fallen down and broken your crown? And has your partner come tumbling after? Then call us at Sing a Song and Sixpence, Nurseryland's leading industrial claims lawyers.
I'm Jack, and thanks to Sing a Song and Sixpence, Jill and me were awarded a golden guinea. Our employers were found guilty of failing to put up a sign reading, Danger Hill.
That is just one example of the hundreds of advertisements put out by dubious law firms encouraging people to go to court. But are they creating a climate of greed? I tracked down little Miss Muffet, who successfully sued a Tuffet owner.
Miss Muffet! Miss Muffet!
I have no comment to make.
Is it not true that you were given record damages and put an innocent Tuffet owner out of business?
Look, I'm the victim here. I was just minding my own business, eating curds and whey. There was no sign saying, warning, spiders operating in this area.
So you are saying the Tuffet owner was negligent?
Yes! It was a clear case of insectual harassment.
But spiders aren't technically insects.
You're trying to sit down beside me, aren't you? Perv! I'll sue you. That'll frighten you away.
Worrying evidence there that Nurseryland is succumbing to an epidemic of claim mania that threatens the livelihoods of us all. Back to you, Jim.
So, Mr. Singer, how much do you think I can get for being hit by a rattle? Really? As much as that? John could never afford it. He'd have to sell his little cap.
Jim.
Oh, sorry, I was just on the phone there.
One of the low points of the year, apart from Jim's attempts at humour, was the News at Bedtime strike,
which saw one of the presenters withdrawing his labour in a show of solidarity and integrity, and the other one crossing the picket line and scabbing.
Alternatively, one of the presenters turned up responsibly to keep the people of Nurseryland informed, and the other lazily stayed in bed because he couldn't be bothered to get up.
OK, let's allow the listeners to decide how that classic piece of scab broadcasting went when a replacement presenter had to be brought in.
You're listening to the News at Bedtime with me, John Tweedledum.
And me, Little Boy Blue.
And here are the headlines. Industrial action by Nurseryland Broadcasters has seen veteran presenter Jim Tweedledee replaced by newcomer Little Boy Blue.
And now it's time for the time with Dilly Dilly.
No, Dilly does the weather.
Oh.
But she's not here, so you'll have to do it.
The weather is coming up to Hickory Dickory Dockery Dare.
No, that's the time, you idiot.
Ow!
Just do the traffic.
Okay. March winds and April showers bring forth May flowers on...
No.
Oh, ow!
No, not that.
Ow!
Now, that's the theme tune, you twit.
I don't know what I'm doing.
No, not that. That's the pips.
What?
Oh, you're making it go backwards now.
Ow! You're hurting me.
Meant to.
Admitted it was so terrible that they took you off air and replaced you with an old programme about a duck and a drake and a nice barley cake.
Well, at least it wasn't as bad as your infamous gaffe this year when you offended half the country with your so-called slip of the tongue.
It was a mistake that anyone could have made.
It was disgusting. Let's hear it.
This is the News at Bedtime with me, Jim Tweedledee. And my guest in the studio is a pheasant plucker.
Oh, no, Jim. I'm not the pheasant plucker. I'm the pheasant plucker's mate.
Oh, I'm sorry, the pheasant plucker's mate. So, why exactly are you plucking pheasant plucker's mate?
I'm only plucking pheasants because the pheasant plucker's late.
Oh, I see, you're a stand-in pheasant plucker. So, as a novice pheasant plucker who obviously enjoys plucking pheasants, what pheasant plucking advice would you give to any would-be pheasant plucker who wanted to take up a career as a peasant plucker? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used the word peasant. It's very offensive. The better to do the news headlines, I think. The inquiry into the death of Cock Robin began today. Sorry, coughing fit there. And the jury held that the sparrow denied shooting the arrow.
Rank amateurism there, and apologies to any listeners who were offended by Jim calling the pheasant pleasant. Anyway. Now, regular listeners of this programme will know that Jim spent a lot of this year abroad as a freeloading ligger.
I think you mean roving reporter.
Looking for any jollies that he could rack up on expenses.
Pursuing the big stories of the moment as and when they happened. Oh, and here's some breaking news. Your nose! Oh. Now, earlier this year I travelled to the land of the free.
The land of the free bee?
Oh. To follow the mid-term elections. I interviewed Yankee Doodle Dandy when he came to town. President Doodle Dandy, why have you come to town riding on a pony?
We are facing tough times, which is why I've come to this great town riding not on a stallion, not on a cart horse, but on a humble pony.
Marvellous, sir. Very inspiring. And I can't help noticing that you have stuck a feather in your cap.
Indeed I have, but it's only one feather, appropriate for the tough times we are facing. Not 2 feathers, not 3 feathers, not a whole headdress of feathers, but one humble feather.
And do you have a name for this cap, sir?
Yes, indeed. I have called it Macaroni.
Marvellous. Thank you so much, President Doodle Dandy, for granting me an interview. But President Yankee Doodle Dandy was failing to get his message across. Voters had no idea what he was talking about. As reported on the right-wing American news channel, Fantastic Mr. Fox News.
President Doodle was in deep doo-doo following his disastrous decision to put a feather in his cap and call it macaroni. And President Doodoo's boo-boo has handed votes on a plate to his rival Tea Party candidates, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, the Dormouse, and, of course, presidential hopeful Alice.
My name is Alice, and I and my friends, the Mad Hatter and the Mad March Hare, want to bring sanity back into politics. If Yankee Doodle was a true American, he would have ridden into town on a Humvee, stuck a gun in his cap, and called it McDonald's. And you know what, my friends? What sort of name is Doodle Dandy? It sounds kind of foreign to me. You know what? I think the guy is a Muslim. Yes, sirree, hot diggity split. I say to you, Yankee Doodle Dandy was born in Muslimia.
This is Fantastic Mr. Fox for Fantastic Mr. Fox News saying good night, God bless, and vote Tea Party.
Amazing bit of reporting there by myself.
Yes, unbelievable, Jim. A bit like your expenses.
Sorry, John got something stuck in his throat there. It's a rattle. Still, there was good news late in the year. In the bleak midwinter frosty wind made moan, with the release of the owl and the pussycat, who'd been kidnapped by pirates off the coast of the land where the bong tree grows. Mary, our contrary correspondent, was there to cover the extraordinary events as they unfolded.
Amazing scenes here as the owl and the pussycat walk to freedom at long last. We thought we would never see them again, but here they are, looking tired but happy. So, Owl and Pussycat, welcome home.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You've survived an incredible ordeal and you've suffered terrible conditions. May I be the first to say, wasn't it grossly irresponsible for just the two of you to go sailing off in your pea-green boat?
Well,
How stupid can you get? You go off for a year and a day and you make yourself a sitting target. Weren't you asking for trouble, Pussycat?
It was very much our dream to go on this voyage, and we had no idea that the Bong Tree territorial waters were unsafe.
Oh, come off it! And you, Owl, you drew attention to yourself by singing songs to the stars above on your small guitar.
One should surely be able to sing charmingly on one's own boat without being boarded and taken hostage by Bong Tree pirates.
So, having been taken hostage, a dodgy deal was eventually done with a local Bong Tree intermediary, the Piggywig. How much did your freedom cost, Owl?
I'd rather we didn't go into specific sums.
I understand that the ransom paid was quite substantial, in the region of some honey and plenty of money wrapped up in a £5 note.
I'm sorry, we've been asked not to comment by the Nurseryland Foreign Office.
I'll take that as a yes. So, Owl, any advice for other seafarers contemplating a similarly stupid voyage?
If, say, you are 3 men in a tub planning a bit of rubber-dub, then don't. Stay at home on dry land.
Owl and Pussycat, thank you very much.
It's your cue, John. Oh, hang on.
Mary, our contrary correspondent there.
Oh, and finally, before we summon in 2011, news is just coming in of this year's New Year's honours.
Is it?
11 new lords are ennobled for services to Leaping.
Yes, and
Cinderella's father, Mr. Hardup, is to become Baron Hardup.
Good for him, and...
And you'll be very pleased to hear, John, that a much-loved national treasure, whose voice is familiar to millions across Nurseryland, has finally been given the recognition they deserve.
I don't know what to say.
Yes, Widow Twankey is to become a dame.
What? Nothing for me, then?
Not even a nighty knighthood. All that toadying to Prince not quite so charming and nothing to show for it apart from some sore knees. Ow, ow! Ow!
Not as sore as your noodle.
There is something, John.
Yes?
You get to do the interview with Dame Widow Twanky, who now joins us down the line.
Dame Widow, congratulations. I am delighted for you.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
This interview doesn't seem to be going anywhere, does it, boys and girls?
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, yes, it is.
I think we're feeling a bit jealous, aren't we, Mr. Tweedledum?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, no, I'm not.
John, maybe I should take over the interview.
Oh, no, you shouldn't.
Oh, yes, I should. Now, Dame Widow, as a former washerwoman, this honour will presumably change your life. The days of you being unable to get a table at a top celebrity restaurant like the Holly and the Ivy are behind you.
What are they, Jim?
They're behind you.
I can't hear you. What are they?
Behind you.
What's he saying, boys and girls?
Behind you! And that's all we've got time for, thank God. On our review of the year, we'll just take a final look at our favourite headlines of the year. The Daily Fairy Graph had Toad of Toad Hall runs over protesters against Wind Farm in the Willows.
The Daily Mirror on the Wall had Thomas the Tank Engine to become Roger the Replacement bus service.
And the Nursery Times had Farmer's Wife defends cuts. Blind Mice Tales had to go.
And the Daily Twinkle Twinkle Little Star celebrated 40 years of naked pictures of Lady Godiva on a horse, with some more pictures of Lady Godiva naked on a horse.
And a last look at the clock tells me that the mice are running up it, which means it's Hickory Dickory Dock and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, John.
Happy New Year, Jim.
So, any New Year resolutions, my old acquaintance?
Yes, I've decided to stop hitting you with a rattle.
How's it going? Oh!
The news at bedtime was presented by John Tweedledum and Jim Tweedledee, with Peter Capaldi, Jack D, Lucy Montgomery, Vicky Pepperdine, Simon Greenall, Alex McQueen and Dan Tetzel. It was written by Ian Hislop and Nick Newman. The producer was Simon Nichols.
Technical difficulties. Sorry, your time is up.